Music for global change. Creating music that inspires the world. Welcome to the Music for Global Change broadcast. And now here's your hosts, founder and music ambassador Skyler Jett with Deborah, Fennella and Tom Bryant.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to start a revolution? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to start a revolution?
Well, welcome to the show, Dale Edward Chung. Born and raised in Berkeley and Oakland, California, you're a fifth-generation Chinese American. Your family was being one of the founding Chinese families in the Monterey Bay area. You've performed on Latin Grammy-nominated album. You're a voting member of the Recording Academy. You also, as an actor, appeared in the film Unspoken in 1999, which won the Screen Actors Guild Award.
Wow.
You've won various other music awards as well. You were a member of the legendary R&B funk group Con-Function from 2003 to 2016, which saw you touring the world. As a solo artist, you've performed alongside Leela James and Loose Ends. You've had various solo albums. You've just released a new record under your new rebranded Dale Edward Chung name, which is called It's Over. Please tell us more about that, your rebrand. What was the thoughts behind that?
Well, so I used to go by D. Edward, and so when I first started singing, I'm doing basically like R&B soul music. I really wanted people to judge the music and not judge my picture before they heard the music.
Right.
And the thing is that, so I'm from the Bay Area, very kind of liberal, mixed area, growing up. And so, but what I've learned is that while music should be this, great liberal bastion of acceptance, it's very narrow. The business is very narrow. It tries to pigeonhole people into certain categories, which me being an Asian American growing up, I'm fifth generation here. And so, I realized pretty quickly that people judge you based on what you look like.
Right.
And so I made up this name, D. Edward, quite honestly, to cut off my ethnicity in my name, even though, so I didn't have any pictures on my first album. It was D. Edward. It was called Little Red Box. It was a picture of a box, basically a gift wrap box.
Yeah.
And because I wanted people to judge me based on the music, my voice. And I think that worked well for the time being. As a matter of fact, when I gave my CD to the road manager of Confunction, a couple weeks later, he called me up. He's like, "Hey, I'm downloading your CD to my iPad right now. Man, it sounds great, but who's D. Edward?"
Right.
And I said that was me, and he loved it, right? And so that's someone who knew me and who was in my corner. But I just wanted the masses to really hear my voice and then judge based on that. And then and then I slowly started to introduce what I looked like.
Wow.
And I got comments that people had no idea. They they had no idea what I looked like. They had no idea that because I looked like this, that I would sound like that.
Right.
And I just felt that it's been 8 years since I've released my last album. And so I just felt it was time for me to really come into my own in terms of who I am. I'm at the point in life, I think, where it's like you either accept me or you don't.
That's right.
Yes.
That's brilliant.
That's right. Deborah, you got a question?
You produced several albums along with Latin Grammy. You also won an Indie Music Channel Award for the Best R&B Producer in 2013 and an Oakland Indie Mayhem People's Choice Award in 2015. Nominated for 2 Hollywood Music and Media Awards in 2015 and 2016 and an Oakland Indie Award in 2015. So congratulations. So tell me how that came about, please, Dale. Normally you get nominated, don't you, sometimes?
You want me to talk about my nominations? I mean, it's all all of those things are contests, right? So basically, yes. I mean, really, in the end, none of it really matters. You know, in the end, it's really about creating art. You know, it is nice to have people recognize that, you know, either industry peers or people. It's definitely nice to be recognized. But, you know, in the end, it doesn't really matter. You know, as long as you're being honest and true to your art and yourself, you know, I think that's the most important thing. I mean, I will say I did win a Latin Grammy, and so that was
which is amazing.
Nice. You know, it's fascinating to listen to this in terms of your ethnicity and race, right? Because before there was computers, there was music. I put some kids in a car one time, and I was channel surfing. And I waited till they start going, hey, right? Then I cut it off. Then I go, do you really care how they look right now? They said, no. So it doesn't, when you put your finger over there on that keyboard on C, it sounds like C. It knows no race whatsoever. It's kind of why I started Music for Global Change, because music is not just for somebody, it's for everybody. And it doesn't matter where you come from. If people enjoy your music and they like it, you know, that's all that matters, really. I hate hearing that story that you got to change. I got another friend like that, Chinese friend of mine in Nashville, and he's phenomenal. He plays 4 or 5 instruments and sing his butt off, right? But he has to go through the same thing. And I think that's insane because people love his music. And here you are, you got to do an album with a so you don't have to show who. That's sick to me, right? I mean, listening to that hurts me, really.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it hurts me, obviously. You know, it's the confines of where we're at. You know, I do believe that things are changing. You know, very, very slowly, though, like super slow. But things are changing. You know, hopefully I can add to that. You know, be a part of that change. Yeah, I mean, I've always tried to be part of the change. You know, I just felt that, you know, in that moment, that's kind of how I wanted to introduce myself, because, you know, we do live in a society where we're very, you know, a lot of times we're very narrow. We have blinders on and we see and judge people based on what they look like. And we really shouldn't. Yeah. You know, now I have to say, being from the Bay Area, like that attitude it's just prevalent everywhere. But being from Berkeley and Oakland, you know, I grew up in a mixed,
diverse,
race. Yeah, super diverse. And so, but I also understood, you know, where the rest of the world, especially being on tour, you know, being on tour with like Confunction and going to places that I would never go to, like the Midwest of the United States and the South, and, you know, where it's everything is still very divided.
Yeah, man. And here it is. You're an amazing conga player, right?
Thank you.
A lot of people would think the congas is from Latin America, but it's not. I have a friend that I did a record with. He's from the Congo, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. It's a Congo. When it got to Latin America, they took the O off and put an A. Yeah. Now he told me that was the first telephone. Mm-hmm. So he said we created that drum to tell brothers that lions was coming over towards you. They'd get up on a mountain and they was playing that, and they could communicate and talk to each other.
Right.
So, and when they got over there to Latin America, they made dances out of it, salsa and all the stuff like that. And here you are, Chinese American, playing this instrument in a funk band. Okay. If that's not diverse, I don't know what is, right?
Right.
So the real quick story, when I replaced Lionel Richie, and we went to China, and I played in Hong Kong, and it was the most beautiful thing. There was like 20,000 people out there, right? And when I started singing 3 Times a Lady, everybody got their lighters and going side to side. And they all sang 3 Times a Lady with me. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, they might not even know any more English. Because when I went backstage, I couldn't talk to them same people.
Yeah.
But they could sing in English. So that's how powerful this thing is. That's music for global change. We're trying to change the way people behave and heal and educate and solve problems. So do you write social conscious music?
You know, I do a little bit. You know, it's not my main focus, but I do. Like, I have a song called "State of the World" that it definitely is about society and the whole. So I grew up on like Gil Scott-Heron and socially conscious music, obviously. Like, that's not my main focus. It is my focus, though. So everything that I do, whether I'm talking about love or breakup or whatever, it is to me, it's all part of the social consciousness. You know, my new song is called "It's Over," right? And so it's over while on its surface is about a breakup. Right. It's also about change. And if you watch my music video, I talk about the whole D. Edward thing, right? It's very brief, but you know, the premise of the whole music video is me going on. It's 1965, and I'm going on this TV show because I have this hit record, and the as I walk in, the director calls me D. Edward, and I say, don't call me, call me Dale. You know, D. Edward's the name that the record label gave me because they didn't know what to do with a Chinese American soul singer, right? You know, and so and it's kind of So everything I do, and in that video, I talk about, there's actually at the end, I dedicate it to this actor named Jack Sue. So Jack Sue was on this show in the 1970s called Barney Miller, and he played this character named Nick Yamana. And so he was an actor, but I also discovered as I was doing research that he was also the first non-African-American male to be signed to Motown Records. Oh, wow. In 1965, and he was the first person to record the song "For Once in My Life" that never got released, and so they shelved the record. I don't know specifically why, but I have a feeling that it might have been that they didn't know how to market him. An Asian American soul singer. I would say that everything I do is kind of socially conscious, and while I may not directly speak about it, but like, it's over, one of the themes that I say about that is that it's time, it's time for us as Asian Americans in this pop world. It's time for us to be able to make that statement and make that stand, and it's happening. If you look at like Bruno Mars or Olivia Rodrigo, they're Filipinos. It's something I discovered recently, which I don't know why I didn't know this, but Raul Reco, who was Santana's conga player for 30 years, who passed away a few years ago, he's Filipino. Oh, wow. I had no idea. Yeah, man. I mean, music, like I said, it's for everybody. It's not just for somebody, right? Right. But we here at Music for Global Change, we like to encourage you, hopefully inspire you to write more socially conscious, because there are things out there that we can help each other. And it's easy to talk about yourself, you know what I mean? But then everybody thinks of something like, if we did this, this would happen. This would be great for people. If we did this, you ever hear people say that? That when I go out and speak to young people, I say, well, what is that? Okay, let's write about it, right? And it's so cool because you open the door for them to say what they're doing, but with melody. That 12 notes over there on the keyboard, from Bach to rock, it could be any kind. And so the other thing, what I love too, is like, I love traveling the world to see different instruments that you've never seen before. And maybe take the young people, let's put your beat on there, right? And wow, like the kora, different, wow, and it really opens up. I did this thing at the BART station one time for Oscar Grant. Yeah, Oscar Grant. I did a show there for him, but I brought this sister up, to play the kora,
and they had never seen nothing like that. It was like, whoa, what is that? Right? That's the coolest thing. And then you started out in it, but it has some funk in it. So you got this different instrument with some funk. And so now I just did a dance song with some string lines that I had from a movie, right? And I put a beat on it. And I went and got dancers from all over the world to send in videos, right? And it really came out amazing on a young guy out of Copenhagen. So I inspire people to go out and write music that's going to heal, educate, and solve problems. Tom, you got a question?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at your past, obviously you initially, presumably you were the actor side of you, was something you did first, and then you transitioned into music. Was that a big change for you? Was that something you'd always wanted to get into music, but you started out in acting? And what was the thought behind that?
So actually, I didn't start off as an actor, even though it was the late '90s that I was in that film that won a SAG award. Which I have no idea why, but it did. Yeah. But that was the first film I was ever in. I've been in music when I was a kid, I was involved in music, and so music has always been a part of that. Yeah. And so even when I was in that film, there was a scene where I was playing a lawyer. And I had my band business card, and I kept trying to flip it to the camera, and the director kept saying, "Don't do that." Yeah. So
trying to get a little pull, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, "No, don't do that." Yeah. Yeah. And so I moved to LA. This is my 6th year here in LA, and that's really when I started to get into filmmaking and acting. Well, I had already done some acting, obviously, and honestly, at that time, I didn't even know what the SAG Award was, and certainly back in like 2000 when it won, I didn't know what a SAG Award was or if there was any importance to it, and I wasn't really thinking in that way. But then once I got down here and started acting, someone said, "You're a SAG Award winner." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah, that film you were in and won a SAG Award. I'm like, "Is that right?" Okay. But so when I came down to LA, that same person, so that film was it spoke about, so it was done in the late '90s. So it spoke about the Korean and African American issues that were happening here in LA. And really around the country, but that was like the Rodney King when that was happening, and so that film was touching on that subject, right? And so when I got to LA, there was a film that, and I still hopefully maybe will develop this out further if I can get all the rights to it. But there was a guy who was murdered in Chicago in 1984. His name was Vincent Chin. Mm-hmm. He was a Chinese American guy, and these 2 auto workers mistook him, and not that this is an excuse, but mistook him for Japanese and beat him to death on his bachelor party night. Right. Oh, wow. And that is actually where the term Asian American, while it was invented, that term was invented in UC Berkeley in 1969 by students at UC Berkeley. It didn't start to become a phrase that we use commonly until 1984 and that case. Right. And so Asian American is really like a political term, mm-hmm. right? It's about the numbers, right? So and back before 1984, the Asian communities were very divided. Especially here in America. I don't know how it was in the rest of the world, but they were very divided because of the history of this country. The government would focus on, either Chinese or Japanese, at particular times, and the other Asians would say, "Well, we're not them," so leave us out of. But so when that case happened, it became the first federal civil rights case that ever involved an Asian American, a Chinese American specifically. And that term Asian American was born into how we use it in the world today. It became a common phrase. And so, and I remember when that was happening, I was in a band rehearsal with the guitar player was from LA, And I remember I said, I think I might have said I'm Chinese or Chinese American. And he said Asian American. And I looked at him like,
Oh, wow.
what are you talking about? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Wow. And it's from Berkeley.
Yeah, it was invented in 1969 by the Asian American or the Asian Student Union at UC Berkeley.
Right.
Yeah. Now, Dale and I are from the same area, right? I was born in Oakland and I was, raised in Berkeley too at the same time. So it's a very diverse place, but a lot of music, historical music came out of the Bay Area. You know what I mean? Most famous was, like Sly and the Family Stone and groups like that. Yeah, Tower Power. And there's a lot of groups like that. Santana, Journey, Deborah, you got a question?
What positive change would you like to see in the world?
My family came to America in the 1860s, right? And back then the Civil War was still happening, slavery was still legal. And so they came to be Americans. And that's kind of how I grew up. My aunts and my uncles and even my mom, they always said we're Americans. We are, because this is all we know. So it was always, to me, that phrase was always about not judging, that we all belong here. We do. All think it's the powers that be, those power brokers that control all the money and the politics of the world. As long as they can keep us fighting, amongst each other, they can continue doing what they're doing. The whole divide and conquer theory, I think that's our biggest threat, that we've always had to fight against.
Yes. And I think also, be the positive change that we want to see in this world. Peace is the answer and the pathway of love, and that's where social conscious music comes in.
Yeah.
Have you been over here to the UK?
I have not. Unfortunately, the UK was not, I guess Confunction wasn't very big in the UK, so we never.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, you need to come over.
I would love to.
There's 330 million Americans, but there's 960 million Europeans, right?
Wow. Right.
And so where I live at right now, the airport is 20 minutes from here, and I can be in Paris in 35 minutes.
Wow.
I can be in Belfast in 35 minutes. I can be in Scotland in an hour, right? And so everything is closer, but I mean, there's so much talent over here, Dale. It's ridiculous, right? And I had a #1 hit out in Portugal, and I went down there to do a video. But there's so many talented people. Now, I had a radio show before, back home for 3 years. And I start having Europeans on my show like once a month. And the coolest thing happened because Americans like, whoa, Skyler, who was that? Right? And it's them same 12 notes, right? Mm-hmm. And they wasn't judging them. It was like, wow. And so we're going to have a friend of mine. Her name is Nubia. She's half Nigerian and half Swiss. And she's from Zurich area, Basel. And she's coming on the show. And I wrote 4 songs with her and another friend of mine from Switzerland, Urs was endangered. And so her record came out and this promoter got in touch with me. He said, Skyler, you're about to be famous in Europe. I said, why? He said, because most Europeans dream of Americans even hearing their music. And that hurt me because I can go all the way through Europe and hear all the American music I want, but we don't reciprocate. It's the trickle down effect. The Beatles, Sting, Seal.
Right.
Once in a while you'll get, and they've already made it big before they, in the rest of the world. So that's what I'm trying to change, right? Like I said, music's for everybody. And we should just open it up like that. Stop judging people by, putting them in categories. See, those are business people in the music world.
Right.
Because they don't play music. So remember we used to go to the record store and you go in and you go, hey, I want this record. And you start singing, oh, it's over here in this aisle, right? That's the business people because they don't play music. Mm. And I'm like, why don't you just go Dale Chung? Stop, because you might want to do some other kind of music on the next record, right?
Yeah.
See, and I don't want to be talking too much and taking up your time, but this is what was so cool about Prince, because what happened, do you remember when he did that thing called formerly known as Prince?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, because he was signed.
Right.
He was signed to Warner's, and he goes, they say, what you gonna do now? Because women going all crazy on you, you got everybody dancing and all that stuff like that. He said, I want to do a rock record. They say, you crazy. You can't play you can't be doing no rock record, right? And he says, okay, you're not gonna let me do a rock record? I want out of my contract. So they say, but we own your name, right? He said, okay. So he was breathed. He goes, you know what? I'm gonna say I was formerly known as Prince, right? And then he wrote slave on the side of his face. So they told him not to do a rock record. So he waited his contract out. And what's the first record he did? A rock record. Look how much money Warner's lost because these business people said, don't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Same thing happened to Marvin Gaye. He's doing all those love songs and dance stuff like that. And then all of a sudden the Vietnam War happened, and Barry Gordy go, okay, what you gonna do now? He said, man, I gotta tell people what's going on. That's where that title came from.
Yeah.
That turned out to be the biggest album, bigger than all the love songs he ever wrote.
Right.
So don't judge people like that. We're creative people. Let us do whatever we want. Let the audience judge that, right? And stop putting this in categories. And stop talking about race, all that stuff like that. Get age discrimination out of music. Get image out of music. The way you look has nothing to do with the way you sound, right?
Right.
And we got to bring back the human sound because all of us have our own signature. One bass player, you can get one bass, and then a few bass players go play on it. Every one of them go be different because they all got a different sound.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll leave you with this. So, because I had 4 groups play the same song. Now it's going to be different musicians in the 4 groups, right? Even though they played the same notes and everything, it still sounded different because everybody has their own sound, right? And that's the beauty of music. And
right.
I tell people all the time, you can go to school for music all you want to. You still would never sound as good as somebody who was born to do it. That's a different sound, right? So, and just because you don't read don't mean you can't play music. I don't read music. I've been on over 2,500 records. What are you telling me? I can't? I've already done it, right?
Yeah.
And don't let nobody tell you can't go nowhere because I've been to 36 countries.
Yeah.
I'm from Oakland, right? So don't let nobody tell you can't do anything you want to do. You just put your mind to it, right?
Yeah, I absolutely. That's totally what I believe. That's kind of how I was raised, which is unusual for a Chinese mother, but she was from Berkeley. So born and raised in Berkeley. And so the way I was raised was she was like, I don't care what you do. Be the best that you can. Do it the best that you can, and don't expect me to visit you in jail. So,
yeah, my mom used to say that too. You know what I mean? But I ain't coming over there. Deborah, you got another question before we go?
What are your plans now for the future?
Well, the immediate future is I'm releasing more. So I'm releasing singles right now. So my first single just got released. I'm working on the next music video right now, and we're gonna be releasing music probably every couple of months through the rest of the year, or at least until the fall. And so that's going to take up a lot of time. I am working on some film projects. So trying to get all. Yes, acting and as a filmmaker, as a producer. And in terms of my filmmaking, that really is where my socially aware and socially conscious art really comes into play, because everything that I do, even my last music video, I wanted it to have a meaning to it. I wanted to be able to forward this idea, of inclusion, and the struggles that we go through and trying to and overcoming those struggles. And so that's really where I'm going, with everything, with my art. I really love this whole idea of filmmaking. And so that's really where I'm trying to go into much more.
Exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah. We have 1 more minute left, and I want to thank you so much for taking the time, my brother. Namaste.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Keep
Thanks for joining
bright.
us.
Save the world.